So wide receiver twos on a team, an offense that has two prime wide receivers, again, are very risky investments this season. I'll explain why. It's the Fantasy Sports Boss. Hit that subscribe button. So I talked about this last season, at the end of last season, as one of our lessons learned, okay? And I also reiterated this in the 2024 Fantasy Sports Boss Fantasy Football Draft Guide, which you can get here on the homepage, also on Amazon in PDF form, Kindle form on Amazon. And the way this goes is when you have two wide receiver one talents on the same team, only one could lead the team in receptions, and one usually stands above the other, even though they both have immense talent. The second guy in such a scenario often gets overdrafted and almost always disappoints, doesn't reach his numbers. And last season we had 3 glowing examples of this where the second guy just did not meet expectations. All right, starting with Cincinnati, you have Jamar Chase, who's the clear wide receiver one of the best in football. And then T. Higgins, who's a really good receiver in his own right. Could be a wide receiver one on like 20 different NFL teams, but he just so happens to play on one that has a generational talent in Jamar Chase. But be that as it may, while Chase was a first-round pick last season, T. Higgins went in the 3rd round. But T. Higgins last season, I know he was hurt, only 42 catches for 656 and 5 touchdowns. But when he was on the field with Chase, still took a back seat. So that 3rd round pick went bust, all right? Then you have the Miami Dolphins situation. Obviously, Tyreek Hill put up the best fantasy season in football at the wide receiver position last year. It was just unbelievable with the yardage. It was just silly. 1,700 yards, 13 touchdowns through the air. He was a well-deserved and paid off as a first-round pick. But his running mate, Jalen Waddle, he went in the late 2nd round last year, despite Tyreek Hill being on that same team, and Jalen Waddle disappointed, all right? Now, 72 catches for 1,014 yards is not bad, but that was not 2nd round production. Only 4 receiving touchdowns as well. He did miss 3 games with injury. He seems to always be nicked up. Jalen Waddle has tremendous talent, and like T. Higgins, he could be a wide receiver one on 20 different NFL teams, but on the Dolphins, that on a team that runs the ball a lot as much as they do, it's just not going to play as well. And right now, Waddle is going in that late 2nd, early 3rd round territory, while T. Higgins, I forgot to mention, is going like in the 4th round. That's a scary proposition. Again, I don't like that situation for Jalen Waddle. Then you have the Philadelphia Eagles, all right? A.J. Brown, he was the clear number 1, and he played like one. I know he tailed off a little bit at the end of the season, but A.J. Brown made good on his late 1st round draft spot. However, Devontae Smith, who went in the early 3rd round, 81 catches, 1,066 yards, 7 scores, really solid season. But was that 3rd round quality numbers? I don't think so. Borderline, right? It was borderline. And Smith does over the last couple of seasons really has done most of his positive work when Dallas Goedert is injured. When Dallas Goedert's on the field, all 3 guys are on the field with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith sees a sharp decline in his numbers. All right, so all things being equal, Smith with Goddard on the field is going to be even more risky this season. He's going in the early 3rd round of drafts. Now, a couple other situations to be aware of. The San Francisco 49ers. Who do you take, Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk? Both of these guys extremely talented, but both of those guys cancel each other out to an extent. Like Brandon Ayuk last year, he had 75 catches. Deebo Samuel, 60. Now, I know Samuel does work in the passing game. Then you have Chicago. DJ Moore is now being joined by Keenan Allen, not to mention Rome Odunze. That's a situation that looks a little scary as well. I'm not sure I want to invest in those guys either. I really want to have a team. Look at the Texans. Good luck figuring out, is it going to be Stephon Diggs? Is it going to be Nico Collins? My money's on Nico Collins, but Stephon Diggs, maybe just a change of scenery. That's all he needed. He could still be the all-pro that he's always been. Tank Dell is there as well. Dalton Schultz, there's just a lot of mouths to feed there. So always be careful of the second guy. And if it's a situation where we don't know who the number 1 guy is going to be, like San Francisco, Chicago, Houston, then you have to be even more careful. Let me know what you think of this situation. You avoiding these guys? I'm not saying I'm avoiding all of them. If they fall far enough in draft, I'll draft. In the draft, I'll take anybody at the right cost. But all things being equal at the current draft spot, I'm kind of avoiding all of those situations in terms of the second guy, or if it's a muddied situation and we don't know who the number 1 guy is. Let me know what you think. Post in the comments below.